Hello everybody and welcome, no, that's the wrong intro. That's the wrong intro. It's been too long. Hello everybody. Let's exit the porch. There we go. Hi Grumbles.
Hi Tiger.
Pro
How are you
podcaster.
doing? It's all right.
Fine. It's fine.
I thought, what's this? We started a second one, but I didn't know. All right.
Yes, we've started a new podcast. It's called the same thing. It just has a different intro.
Yes, exactly. Welcome to Exit the Podcast, the new intro edition.
Welcome indeed to Exit to Port. Exit to Port. See, two as in two. Yeah.
Yeah. Two of us, like we'd planned it right from the beginning.
Yes,
oh wait,
exactly. One thing I forgot to do in the audio checks was to make sure that we don't hear me through you.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, okay. Can you hear you through me?
I mean, can I?
I don't know. Can I? I'll move my mic a little bit.
Maybe a tiny bit. I don't know. Like ever so slightly, now and again. But I mean, let's not mention that on the podcast. That way, people can be actively listening for it.
No, that would be silly.
Why would we do that?
Exactly. Only draw attention to the good stuff. She said.
It's fine. It's gonna be fine. This is an evolving product. The only thing I might I don't know, like if we notice, maybe
we need like a safe word or something. You can say,
I don't know, just
echo.
Turn down my volume. Maybe, I don't know. I have no idea what would cause it. I have no idea. Anyway, let's just continue.
Yeah.
And actually get into the podcast thing.
We should start the podcast.
We should start the podcast. Let's call it Exit to Port.
Yeah.
Speaking of exiting to port, I promise I'm okay, by the way. I promise I
sure?
can speak.
Okay. Welcome to Exit to Port Burnt Toast Edition.
Will you taste metal? No, that's a different thing. So, for those of you watching on YouTube, you can see the topics in the background here, in the middle of the screen. For those of you listening on our other podcast places, you'll probably find the description chock full of topics. We're not going to spend too long on most of these. I don't really have a time frame on this episode yet. But we usually end up around 2 hours, but so we'll see. See. Guess we'll just have to jump right into it. So we usually start with World of Warship stuff, and we're not gonna deviate from our pattern.
No,
because we are jumping straight into World of Warship stuff.
We are indeed, with a big sploosh.
With a big sploosh, indeed. It does create a big sploosh when this happens, and. As per usual, when wargaming does something, there's this huge uproar and everybody is angry.
Yeah.
And this time around, it's the CV players being angry. Because rocket strike, it's now impossible to hit a DD. No, it's not. Stop. Stop yourself right now. And let's look at this from a DD player's perspective. What does a DD have to deal with, Grumbles? Help me list things.
I mean, it's kind of like the wargaming equivalent, or it's like from hell, basically.
Yeah.
No, what they used to have to deal with was just being bruised and battered by pretty much everything. And of course, usually once a couple of rocket strikes have taken most of your health away, then the indignity of sitting in your smoke, hiding, fretting, writing angry letters back to the Admiralty, that kind of thing, only to then eat a torpedo because you sat there thinking the CV wouldn't come and torp you, surely.
Or let's not forget, once you sit in that smoke, what happens when you sit in smoke? You get radared.
Yes.
And when you get radared, you get seen by everybody. Ta-da! So, DDs have had to deal with DDs, radar, torpedoes, and CVs. And now, finally, at least one thing that has been calmed down a bit is the rocket spam.
Yep.
And both as a CV player and as somebody who does enjoy playing DDs, I welcome this. How about you?
I think it's a good change. I think it's healthy. I think it's seen a resurgence in destroyer play by a lot of the player base. Although, as with all things, these shifts bring pro and contra with them. I think that, but certainly from a DD player's point of view, I play a lot of DDs, and it's just become somewhat calmer. You're still terrorized by radars everywhere you look, but you know that's the flip side of that. As I often point out to people, is that if DDs don't have these counters against them, then they become very, almost ludicrously strong as a class. And if you don't like them, or you just not that proficient in them, then it kind of sucks a little bit. So yeah, I think this is a good thing. I think that as Mighty Jingles pointed out not too long ago in his most accurate but also cynical way, this is the DD players probably just have to send bottles of champagne and thank you letters to submarines, because now submarines can't be obliterated by CV rocket strikes. DDs get to conveniently benefit from this, so whichever way you look at it. It's kind of funny, and it's going to be interesting to see how submarines pan out. Not to deviate too far on that, I'm sure we'll talk about that in the future. Oh, yeah. But the fact that DDs will be the main hunters of the submarines, who they have to thank for this adjustment to rocket mechanics. So, but yeah, overall, I think very good thing. With a nod of shared. What would it be, like furrowed brow or something, to all the cruiser and battleship players who are now suffering rocket strikes as a result.
Indeed. Yes. No, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. There's no change in this where I'm going, oh no, I hate this. No, like it's given me a challenge. It's given me a challenge to try to kind of go for these DDs, and yeah, if one thing I've noticed though is now when going after anything with my rocket strikes and I actually hit, it seems more of an accurate hit.
Right, so when you actually do get the strike on target, maybe they, I don't know, I don't think they said that they tightened it up, but maybe they did a little bit.
Like, that could be a bias thing in my head where I now see the area it's supposed to strike more accurately.
Yeah.
And I just noticed myself in the background.
Oh.
Why? That's weird. What? I don't know. That's weird.
Like, it's like a ghost.
Yeah, it's just like ever so slightly in the background. That's weird.
I just moved my mic again to right in front of my face, so it's nowhere near my ears.
I'm not sure it's the microphone. I'm not. I don't know. I don't know, man. Well, ooh. I think I know where it's coming from.
Oh,
when I speak and you chime in with a yeah. I can hear myself, like if I go on and just do this and sometimes oh yeah there it is. Why can I hear myself? Anyway, let's do this troubleshooting a different time.
Welcome to the troubleshooting episode.
This will just kind of highlight what we talked about last time around regarding audio issues and the balancing of things and finding
so
good solutions. Like it's not easy at all. So if anybody has any good suggestions for us regarding how to record this without getting any sort of feedback or similar, please do hit us up. We have Discord channels, both of us, where you can leave feedback or DM us or whatever. Anyway, let's move quickly along. Rocket strikes, good, happy players.
I want to throw one thing, right? And it's not, hopefully not a curveball, but it's kind of like accidentally related to this, I suppose. We've touched on it before we talked about CVs, and I'm not going to go into a long one about it, but I've been thinking, and I might have mentioned this before, I can't remember. I know I've talked about it on stream. But the Immelman got me thinking about CVs and CV balancing and things.
Okay,
in the sense of, and this maybe relates to the rocket strike thing. What I really like about the IMO, whatever the IMO is, what I really like about that particular German tier 10 coal CV is that it's fun to play, and because of the different mechanics and all the rest of it, and eventually I guess that'll wear off. But I like the fact that you have these two strike groups. Now I don't have the Indomitable. That's easy for you to say. Anyway, I don't have that one. But the Immelman gave me the feeling that maybe there's an opportunity, and they probably can do this now, or be too much for a change or whatever. But like, imagine if all the CVs only had two strike groups to choose from, and not three. And they had to then manage their restorations accordingly and stuff like that. And again, let's not go into depth on CV now, because there'll probably be other opportunities once the Russian CVs arrive. But maybe it's just like slightly tagged onto the rocket thing. Maybe that's a little bit of where the sort of positive feeling towards it's coming from, is that the rockets feel less useful. And I've found when I'm playing CV, as I do from time to time, that I'm just using the rockets less and less and less. Because I'm like, I'll take them as like a filler in between when other things are restoring, and then I'll just like try and start a fire on a cruiser or something like that. But generally, I'll be like, rockets, meh, not too worried about that.
Yeah, no, I'm all aboard. I'm all aboard with that thought. But we will, like you said, like we will likely
come back to it. Yeah,
hit on CVs because there is a change upcoming, and knowing us, we will talk blah, blah, blah. I promise I'm okay. We will probably talk about this in the near future, when this change comes upon us. That being Russian CVs, of course. They are right around the corner. There's no doubt about that. Speaking of changes, so as we kind of touched on a while back, when the whole commander skill rework happened, was that there was going to be a meta change.
Yes.
And then we touched on it again once a certain skill disappeared. Yeah,
lazy eye. Oh wait, Grumpy's not here.
Grumpy's not here.
Deadeye.
Yeah. No. As we kind of touched on and predicted, that would happen. But we also said that that would happen by itself when people got used to things. But I don't think we had long enough with Deadeye to let people get used to it. But that doesn't matter. Like, that's nothing we can look at now or such. But the fact is, I see more and more battleships in close and doing more brawling now. Could it be because I'm looking for it? Maybe. But I do feel like I see more battleships being in close and personal in a bigger way. And it fills my heart with joy. And we're letting the battleships battleship again, which is good.
100%. I've noticed the same trend, and I think there's two parts to it. I think one is because the sitting back and snipe it's not the most engaging play.
No.
There are a few battleships, that kind of benefit or play into that area, like a Yamato, for example. But overall, it's not really, even when you're doing that successfully, each to their own. So very subjective, but I don't find that particularly engaging, and I think most people wouldn't on average either. So, and even in those ships, it's about using your hit point pool and supporting your team, and not being the sniper. That rarely works out. It can work, but not that often. But I think that there's another aspect to it, and that is that I think there's been the shift towards destroyers again, very recently in the last patch month, and I think that cruisers are not as common, and as a consequence of that, battleships are not getting as spammed to death, early game. And therefore they're well, I was going to use another jinglesism, but they're putting their brave pants on, and driving forward a little bit, because simply, and it's completely understandable, the psychology of it, of not being spammed to death all the time. Maybe it's all these a few subtle things coming together, like the Smolanta no longer has the 19 kilometers, so it has to take a little bit more risk to be in a position to, versus radar and its smoke, to to use its spam on you and that kind of thing. So there's maybe not as many of those being played. I don't know. I think maybe there's also a lot of ships now with the Russian heavy cruisers included that are using AP. So maybe there's just a slight, ever so slight, I shouldn't tempt fate, but a slight reduction in the amount of HE spam. Things like the German heavy destroyers coming in where people are not using HE, they're using AP almost exclusively. So battleships are like, okay, let's roll our sleeves up and go and get a job done. So, but I think it's enjoyable, and you know, I guess little hat tip of appreciation towards the player base to say, okay, let's do this. At the end of the day, it's about engaging, isn't it? So
could very well be, but I welcome it, and definitely also something else we see is that I think Wargaming have realized that the engagement for battleships is when you're allowed to use your secondaries and you see that number tick up and such, because the release of certain battleships and new lines and such, where it feels like they're refocusing the use of secondaries, it leads to a good thing, because there's another thing happening. But are we getting our secondaries back?
Kind of. I think partially. Maybe it may be enough. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, with the announcement of what they're redoing on the secondary skill, it looks like we're going to be able to, you know, given the right circumstances, given enough time, focusing in, effectively your early shots will be a little bit all over the sea where you're looking for your target, and the more time you spend focused in, I'm not going to go through the numbers because A, I'll probably get it wrong, and B, everyone's read the articles or can look at them anyway. But essentially, in the simplest form, spending a little bit of time getting your ranging in and all the rest of it eventually means that your focus targets will become more and more focused upon, and you'll get more accuracy and more numbers building up, and all the way back to close to, if not around or slightly above the numbers we used to have. Or no, I think it's 50%, so 60, whatever. I said I wouldn't do numbers. And let's just call it 69%. Yeah, and then there's also like a degradation over time. It's only 10 seconds. It probably could be a little bit longer. But you don't immediately lose it if the target dies. You don't immediately, and you have to lock onto a new target. You don't immediately lose it if they disappear behind a rock and then reappear afterwards within 10 seconds. You lock back on and you haven't lost all of that buff or that bonus. I like it. I like the mechanic. It's a pity they didn't sort of think about it and come up with it early on, or maybe they had it and they threw it away or whatever. But I love it. Anything that's going to bring us back, linking back to the previous comments about engagement and feeling like you can recognize in-game minute by minute or moment to moment, and you feel like you're getting some kind of reward and recognition for positioning yourself well and putting yourself where you kind of should be. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, reward, very good segue. However, I just had a thought I need to hit you up with very quickly. Do you think that they came upon this change as a result of the whole grand battle thing, where you had the Satsuma, the tiny citrus fruit, and the giant German city shooting at each other, where they built up to these buffs and then got a temporary buff? Do you think that was part of that, or?
I think I would highly expect that it was related to it. The question I can't answer is, was that deliberate? You know, a logical thought process in design, or was it a coincidence? Don't know. But the fact that they obviously throw these ideas around in their design teams and whatever, and with the mechanics, and would that be possible, and what kind of load would it put on the game, and all this kind of thing. I'm sure that a lot of these things go through various iterations, even if sometimes there's a lot of commentary around we'll roll our eyes and say, who the hell came up with this, or don't give wargaming silly ideas and all that kind of thing, like radar planes and stuff like that. you know, I'm sure that with all the memery and all the nonsense that goes on, at the end of the day, they're a large, successful video game development company, whether we necessarily like it or not. And things like that are not all just down to coincidence. It's about, you know, garnering and nurturing a good group of people and personnel that create these ideas, have these ideas, share them, and toy with them and whatnot. And I'm sure that they, as I said, I don't know whether it was just like, oh, you know, just somebody had a random idea like, well, this would be quite a cool mechanic if we use this in this area, for example, or whether it was part of a longer term development process that they're going through as well. I think that they were aware, and this goes a little bit, it links us again back to the segue, perhaps the next mini part. We've talked about this huge gap, this chasm between the player base and the sort of development and in-game mechanical progress within the game. And they must have been certainly aware of how upset people have been, Battleship players in general and brawlers and people that just like engagement, no matter what ships they're in. What happened with the whole Deadeye, you can guarantee that's observed, recognized, and responded to, whether they respond to it outwardly or not, because of the fact that things like Deadeye are gone. Secondary skill is being reworked in a way that makes a lot more sense, and the various other changes. So they clearly do recognize this stuff. And all we can do is kind of appreciate that, give them a little golf clap and say, yeah, good little steps in the right direction. And then maybe remind them, this is my little mini soapbox, to remind them, look, if you just had a little chat with us every once in a while, some of these things might be avoidable that went wrong, or some of the good ideas might creep through and get to you earlier. But yeah, either way, I guess it's something to be positive and be happy about.
Somehow we say this about them listening and actually following up on certain things. You mentioned the you see the numbers kind of tick up, and you get the close quarter expert, and you get all these things happening. So tell me, how rewarding is it to see numbers?
Like, speaking personally, I love it. I love seeing, I think the whole ribbon thing, you know, I see it and I'm like, cool.
Yeah. So ribbons, fantastic. Love them. Achievements, even cooler, right?
They used to be.
They used to be. Wargaming, what the hell have you been smoking? Because come on.
Yeah.
It's not like this is a farmable thing either. You can get 1 million Krakens a day. You still will only, you would only get, what, 10 or 5 flags for said achievements, because you only get it for the first one. What? Why am I no longer getting more secondary flags for getting a close quarters expert? Why am I no longer getting let's say compensated for the fact that my ship managed to flood a different ship? Why am I not getting compensated for this achievement? Like, talk about just it's not even a backhanded compliment. No, this is a full sweep of the leg and then sit on top of somebody and give them a noogie. And then you go, oh, how do you like that, huh? Isn't this fun? Yeah, we're play fighting. Yeah, that's fun. You know, fuck you, Tony.
Yeah, exactly. You, Ouija. It's like you're looking a bit down in the mouth. It's like, yeah, well, that's... What do you expect? You literally were rewarding me for either inconvenience or well played, sir.
Yeah,
have a breath mint. And now you're just like, oh, well played. Here's a golf clap by somebody standing about 3 countries away from you. Yeah. You can't hear it.
Like, why? Like, achievements are fun, ribbons are fun, but when you get those special achievements, give me something else than just XP. Because you'll get XP anyway. Give me something else than credits, because you'll get credits anyway. Give me, like, yes, sure. The ticker where it says close quarters expert just popped up one more. Yeah. What do I get for it?
Well, let's not forget. I mean, we mustn't forget the part of it where, as you see, done all the time between battles, because the UI is so fluid and quick to respond that people often go into their achievements area in their account and bring up the numbers and be like, "Oh, cool! I've got 35 Quackens. How many did I have?" No, I don't know. Let's see when I last did it, by clicking on it and seeing a table of. Oh no, it doesn't do that either.
Yeah, it doesn't do that. Yep.
No, it's I agree. This is the kick in the shins that we didn't need, and I just think it's a shame, and this is a little section that I think we should always call Regi, where we talk about something they did wrong again. And on top of it, they managed to do the detonation flag. What they managed to do is take one of their community managers on NA and throw them right under the sub.
Yeah.
Not the bus, but the sub.
Not even. They didn't even give him a detonation flag to hold as he was going down. No.
Imagine if they'd given him a little cutout, or that would have, if he'd been waving it as he went down on the screen. No, it's I know. They're like, well, people have been farming them. Yes. How exactly? Once per day.
Like once per day. Not even per login. Per day. Per 24-hour cycle.
Well, it's not further. What if they're throwing the game? It's an important match for the other player. Excuse me? Well, I like that was that. This is the last they'll say on it. But I was like 50-50 on this, because IL Gray, very smart guy, obviously used to be a wargaming insider, had to put up with a lot of this stuff and clear up a lot of. But he did a little video response to that topic on Twitter. And I was 50-50, because even though I respect and I really appreciate, and he articulates it well and makes a really good point of it, I was still like, yeah, but it's still on the negative side of things. And I try to keep it positive. But I think there's a difference between being super negative and just talking about something that is contentious and affects us all, but still trying to put it in a light of, can we please do better than this? So IL Gray on Twitter, just look up his account, look up the video he did earlier this week, and I think it's a really good sort of summary of the situation. He one of the points, not the only one, but one of the points is like, okay, so this is a problem, especially with detonation flags, because it's the only one you would farm, right? Farming all the others would be fine, but they wanted to make a point about farming det flags and that being detrimental. So here's an idea. Right now, you can you're sitting down, right, Tiger? Just, you're steady, right?
Yeah.
How about removing the detonation mechanic?
No, surely can't do that. This wonderful mechanic that we all have come to love and cherish in our daily plays, just randomly detonating because something hit a very critical part of our ship that is not even marked. Oh. Yeah,
I think that they should
get rid of the frickin' detonations. Like, just
they should replace it with something else that's just called the FFS OMG award or something like that. And when you do it, like a little pop up of someone from Wargaming pops up screen and laughs at you or something. I think there's just they just haven't done themselves any favors at all with this, and all of it is just about the economy and getting people to spend a little bit more on the free-to-play game. And I think
I get that it's a free-to-play game and that they want business, but come on,
enough.
If you're gonna go out and defend this with but people can farm it, show us the numbers. Honestly, show us the actual numbers of how many people are being detonated and how many people were getting the flags as part of that.
Yeah.
Show us the actual correlation, not just coinciding numbers that, this is happening. Maybe you fucked something up. I'm just saying it. I'm just saying it. There might something have gone wrong in your spaghetti code there that suddenly lends it so that more people are blowing the fuck up, huh? I'm going Bostonian again. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let's tone it back.
Yeah. The bottom line is, give us back our rewards.
Yes,
I'm going to
please.
say this forever and ever. Just give it back, because it's something that players could recognize, and everybody felt that. Little, even bitter old closed beta players like me were like, "Yay! That's cool. I got some more secondary flags for that," or whatever. Right? Give us back those little rewards to make us feel happy and content inside, and just focus on earning money by, like, you know, selling us ships like the Tier 9 Tech Tree Dutch Cruiser, the Johander. Where's my wallet?
I wasn't going to mention anything, but yeah, no, let's see. Yeah,
Anyway.
you can monetize that way. Moving swiftly along. From one company that does stuff in a weird way and in a funny way, and you know, doesn't really make sense from time to time. Another company that I've recently, like, I've started learning more and more about lately. The people, or rather the main guy behind OBS. One thing. So you know GIF, right? The creator says it's supposed to be pronounced GIF. No, you're wrong. Get off the internet. You don't know your own invention. The creator of OBS says it's supposed to be pronounced OBS. He's wrong. He doesn't know his own product. That's how simple it is. Anyway, OBS are doing big things. They are making it very easy to be a streamer these days. And I have to give them kudos and tip my hat to them for just this. Like, the ability to dock more windows, what windows you dock, like the Twitch activity feed now in OBS. So nice. Like, I no longer have to have Streamlabs or Stream Labels up and running just to see that. I can actually have everything there. And more transitions, and it's a very nice program now.
It is. It's very, it's getting slicker and slicker. I remember when I started with it, and it was a little bit terrifying. It was a little bit intimidating. I was like, this is all...
Yeah, you kind of get thrown into the deep end.
Yeah, because you're like talking to someone like in IT all my life, but it's not unique, but very different looking piece of software. And then for me, I've never worked with like audio visual stuff at all before, which is in itself intimidating and frighteningly deep. You get thrown into this kind of originally this interface, which, you know, I would imagine now if I was just picking it up, never having looked at it, it would still be, but it's just become so much friendlier and slicker and a little bit more intuitive. And as you said, the enhancements and things that have come with it, and just the ease of life or quality of life.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Has been a key focus for them clearly. And it opens it up to a lot more people. And now I assume as well there'll be a lot more content creators creating sort of how-tos and setup guides and things, which were a little bit difficult to find when I started, even just 2-3 years ago. There should be a lot more of that content that's more accessible and more straightforward, more and easier to run through, and at the end get you better results, because you don't have to worry as much about, as you mentioned, Tiger, having to have these 3 or 4 other windows and other apps running in parallel. And not everybody can afford to have 4 or 20 monitors or whatever. So it just makes life that much easier to be able to have something in a one-stop shop.
One thing I've noticed, as for the like how quickly and how much more accessible OBS has been made, compared to when I first started streaming. OBS was my first go-to, without a doubt. And so one of the first things you need as a streamer is your stream key. 3 years ago, I had to look up a weird guide somewhere in the deep dark of the internet that says, oh, you'll find your stream key here, copy that, and then go into your streaming software and enter that there. Now there's a login in OBS where you log into your Twitch, it gets your stream key, it does that for you. There's no manual input or anything. Like it does all of that for you. And it's so much easier. And there's the bandwidth calculations, there's the bitrate calculations. All of this is now done for you. There's no need to sit down and kind of figure out, okay, what's my upload speed and what's X amount of % of that so that we can allocate that to the bitrate gods and that sort of thing. No more of that. It's very straightforward. It even asks you, are you going to be doing recording or live streaming? I'm going to be doing live streaming. Okay, in live streaming, this is more important, so we'll set that, but you can adjust that here if need be. Like, it gives you all of that so much easier. And so I tip my hat to the creators of OBS with all the things except for the fact that they insist on calling it OBS. That's the only thing I'll say, that you're wrong, sir. You're wrong. And they're like, with the whole dockable windows and making it easier to see chat, see all the things that are going on. They're also creating, they're making it easier to create interactivity. And that is our next subject to kind of touch on here. Creating interactivity on Twitch is key to not only growth, but keeping your audience coming back. Like retention, audience retention is important. And on all of these things, they're being made so much easier now with the way OBS is. Like integrating Twitch polls, integrating all of these things into OBS to make your audience stay so much easier.
Yep.
And like, what's your favorite way of creating interactivity, and like, outside of actually talking to people? Like, what's your favorite way?
That's a good question, actually. I would, well, but the favorite way that happens is accidental. Probably similar to you, but it's more by just something stupid happening. It's usually either a slip of the tongue or a derp of the brain. But in terms of the interaction, I think the polls thing is good, but we haven't used it much so far. But we just did some this weekend. We also used one of the Twitch extensions again for WoWs, the ship vote thing. So I think that, like, going further on that, the extensions or tools that give people interaction opportunities that's relevant to the content, whether it's your own created content or the content of the game or something that you're presenting to them. I think those are very good. Things like the marbles on stream was always very popular. I think something that is, I guess, things that are visual as well, that either audio or visual. My favorite, I mean, the most effective ones for me, probably similar for you, are things like sound bites. Where people can trigger, and it's good to see that those technologies are extending and becoming more accessible as well. Things like touch portal and similar, and I hope one day that those will even be something that can come into OBS as well. Not there yet, unfortunately. But I know that there's third parties that you can, the apps or whatever that you can use, or extensions to do things like use channel points to trigger alerts and events, flips of cameras and all that kind of stuff. And I hope that those kind of things that at the moment are not that difficult, but a little bit niche and need a little bit of time and consideration set up, I think things like that will become easier and more mainstream. I suppose one of the ones that I use as well that's a bit more subtle is I use a lot of animations or imagery that I throw up on the screen, usually tied to some kind of sounds as well, like my duck that comes up when we get a torpedo hit or a citadel, something like that. And this goes back to the OBS topic, where the fact that they've brought in the show and hide transitions, including very extensions to those that you can bring in as well, that that allow you to do things like, you know, having an image swipe in from the side, or having, like, I've got a couple of Star Wars for legal reasons, just pictures. There's no, it's not from me anyway. That I use the Luma wipe and the clock sequence, so that they do, like in the Star Wars movies, it does the, you know, here's a picture of Jabba the Hutt, I don't know, eating a pizza, and it will Luma wipe as a clock into visibility. So things like that, I think, are very good kind of subtle ways you can make people react. You know, somebody that does that exceedingly well is Cardboard Cowboy. I don't know if you've ever seen his content, but he does an amazing job with sort of overlays and transitions and stuff like that. He's just got, like, I don't know, dozens, two dozen, like, different screens and things where it's not just like a zoom into his face for reaction, but it's just him in a cardboard cowboy outfit, all overlays and animations and stuff that he does himself, I think, and he'll have, like, whole cutscenes. So he'll be narrating a story walking through a town or something, and then he'll do whole cutscenes. And then I ran into this ghost, and the ghost started, you know, throwing tin cans at me or whatever, and he'll have a whole animation around that. And it's just very, and I think a lot of that stuff, the very visual, you know, leading people, like, through a story where they feel emotions or a laugh, a reaction to it, I think that stuff's very good. And, you know, there's more and more of that being built into the tool set. It's very, very positive. And I think people can, I would encourage streamers, especially if you're starting out now, look into things like the show and hide transitions for individual sources. So the things that you put into your scenes, because that gives it a professional edge that you wouldn't have otherwise if things just appear and disappear.
That's something I would want to see from the creators of OBS, is more and more tools where chat can trigger stuff easier. No need to use places like Triggerfire and so on. But rather than that, where when somebody does, like, they redeem a point cost. A great example here is Dino Cool. Australian streamer, upcoming. We raided him not too long ago. He's a cool guy, very interactive, very animated. Absolutely love his stuff. But he has a redemption you can do. It's 1 point. You can do it once per stream, where it posts a GIF of him in from the side, where with the audio, "Hello, motherfucker," you know, and then that's it's one way of people saying, "Hey, I'm here," and then he kind of goes, "Oh," and then he can interact with you because he knows you're here. That's one way of doing that. And another way he has done these things where he interacts with people who raid him is that he does a shout out, and then a random clip from the person being shouted out is being shown on screen. And he did that with me when I raided him the first time around, where it showed a clip of me getting the Enterprise. And decidedly, I was happy. And he was like, "Oh, I've never seen this game. What is this game? Can you explain what's going on?" And I said, "Okay, this is World of Warships, and this is me opening essentially a loot crate and getting a rare ship that is no longer being sold because it's overpowered, or was at least. It probably still is. I haven't played the Enterprise in a long time. Anyway, and that suddenly got the talk going between me and him, but that also got the rest of chat going. Like they were like, "Oh, okay, so World of Warships, that's this," and suddenly there's a conversation going between multiple parties. Wonderful way of creating interactivity, and I think that's one of the better ways you can actually welcome somebody into your raid is or somebody into your community that has just raided you, is give them time to kind of introduce themselves very slowly, and that was excellent. Because not only because it's a good way of getting yourself to to interact with them and get to know them, but also because it like there's just something that it just makes sense. I don't know. I'm trying to put my words on it, but it's very hard.
Because it makes sense that it's not that necessarily that easy to express, because you're making these connections on a more, on both an intellectual but also on an emotional level. You're actually saying, you know what, I care, and I'm gonna stop for a moment and actually take on board what you do, a little bit of who you are or how you present, and then I'm gonna, you know, interact with you and let or encourage others in the community or in the viewership here to interact with you as well. So it's simplistically, I suppose, it's just an incredibly respectful approach to it, and it's very positive. I also like that. I think it really kind of reminded me, or not reminded me, but like made me very enthusiastic about the experience of being there and sharing that, and you know, because we raided together there the other day as well. And I think it's, you know, if nothing else, I think about 5 people hopped over and immediately just blind followed. Yeah. Over at ours as well. And it's like that's what you want to see. You want to see, because this goes a little bit to that in a looser sense, that topic of like, are there enough viewers out there and all that kind of stuff. And the community, as in almost all circumstances in human life, it's or humanoid life, it's a case of the more we do stuff together, the more we pull together and support one another, the better we're all going to end up being. Because sure, everybody's always looking for their own angle or whatever, but just being yourself is usually the key to that, and not all the gimmicks and things. And the more you share ideas and the creativity, that's where often the best stuff comes from. So I think it's just really good. And as you said, I think having individuals push those boundaries and find those opportunities and use these functionalities in creative ways then spurs it on and moves it forward to the next step. And then hopefully at some point it gets integrated into the tool set and becomes super easy for everyone to learn to use and to make accessible. Because at the end, it creates more entertainment and more enjoyment of what you're consuming, right? So that's what we're here to do, entertain people, I hope.
Yeah, well, I mean, I saw somebody who was talking about the initial idea for most people on Twitch before it becomes a business, is to create entertainment and to create a community. And I think more and more people, or more people, tend to go for the creation of community first, and then it naturally evolves into the idea of creating entertainment. And I kind of looked at this person. I was like, okay, yeah, you're onto something. And then he said, and I'm going to try to not phrase it in the same way he did, because it was kind of crude. He said, ultimately, you are here to get paid. I was like, no. I may do this for a living, but my ultimate job here is not to get paid. My ultimate job here is to entertain and create a space where people can come in, relax, and then feel like they can hang out and just kind of let their worries go for a bit. And with that, I want to create both a community and entertainment. And that gets created, like we've said so many times, through interactivity. Because if you come into a chat where nobody's responding to you, nobody's looking at your message, nobody, like, not even chat is looking at your message, much less the streamer, then how long are you going to stay there?
Yeah.
Not very long. Like, don't get me wrong, I have no problems with those sorts of streams. There are several streams I actually fully do enjoy where that is the idea, that it's more of a movie being played. It's not a conversation going on, but it has to be a very special, what should we say? It's a special setting before that's okay for me.
Yeah. You're right, because it's the difference between like a monologue or something. It's like a performance of somebody on a stage, and if they're there and they're on their own and they're doing a monologue, it either captivates you and sort of tickles your imagination or whatever, or it doesn't. But I think it's a lot harder, and it goes a lot more in more of an art direction with that kind of content, that kind of circumstance. The funny thing is, you notice this when you're doing like role play or versus or even different degrees of role play versus different, you know, things like warships or whatever. It can be really intense sometimes. You're doing like pretty hardcore role play stuff, and therefore you don't have that interaction because people are, like you said, kind of watching a movie. Or various theatrical scenes and performances, and I think that it also, that has to be kind of clear and obvious, or you make it as reasonably obvious as you can that that's what's going on, by, you know, titles or having the mods throw something in, or having an automated bot thing or whatever. But yeah, I think that I do think that you're right in terms of the really sort of emotional and memorable ones are usually the ones with the most interaction. I think there's a few, like I said, there's a few niche areas where that's not the case, but in a lot of cases, you want things to be pumping, and that's, you know, why we mention things like the chants, or you know, it's why emotes and all the rest of it, because people want a way to interact, and sometimes it's easier just to express that in a picture than a wall of text, the picture 1,000 words kind of thing.
Yeah, and you mentioned follower emotes, or you mentioned emotes rather, and I think that's a very good place for us to jump over to the next part, which would be talking about Twitch more. And one thing that Twitch has done, where I know we've talked about this before, I know I've requested this before, is follower emotes. So it's a set of emotes specifically meant for your followers that can be used on your channel. And I know we've talked about this in the way of mods being allowed to use your emotes without having to sub. Yeah, at least on your channel, you know, that way your bot can do that or whatnot, you know, that sort of thing. And kudos to Twitch for doing this, because it's actually becoming a thing, and it's currently being beta tested. I know Meg's Mashables has that as a thing. She didn't even know until we started mentioning, she was making some subscriber badges. And she didn't even know she had this, and she went in to look at her emotes because she mentioned that, and I was like, what are follower emotes? And then that became a whole thing. So,
awesome.
So yeah, so follower emotes. I'm very much saying that this should be a thing all around Twitch, honestly. And I don't think it should be only one. I don't think it should be based on how many people you have in your chat. Five is a good amount. It'll be free emotes for both affiliates and partners, and I think that's a good place to set it, because affiliates can now have 5 emotes if they have enough subs. And that'll suddenly give them 10 emotes for everybody who is at least following, or tier 1. And then you have 5 for people who are just following. So no, it's good thing, very good thing. I want to see this. I really want to see this. I'm happy with that, and that's something where you can have your classical hello, and wave or lurk emote or whatever. And just kind of, you know, emotes that fit on your channel. They just kind of fit into the theme of your thing. You know, something that is an in joke. For instance, you make me moo over on my channel. Because people kind of hear it and go, no, she says you make me move. Yeah, that's it. Never mind. It's a whole thing.
You're getting it utterly wrong.
Yeah.
See what I did there?
Yeah. Just very subtle. Bit of bovine.
Well, you know, I didn't want to milk it.
Yeah. No. You're being a bit of a teat now.
Oh God.
But the follower emotes, very good thing. And you mentioned something that I wasn't aware of. You mentioned Chants.
Yes, Chants. So I kind of like this one.
You quickly described it to me before we started, but for the people at home that are unaware, could you describe Chants?
So Chants are a... you can see now that I haven't done any intense research on it. Chants are basically an opportunity for a streamer or presumably moderators, depending on permissions and whatnot, to be able to start a chant, as the name suggests, where you can, for example, and this links, incredibly to the interaction thing, where you can basically highlight or emphasize a particular activity or moment in a game or something like that. So, I mean, the simplest way for me would be to describe like something, say, for example, where we're going to do a round role-playing as Maximus in Warships. And at the moment, what we do is we just ask everybody to throw in their Maximus emotes or anything that makes them feel like they're bringing us power, you know, chanting for us to be successful and so on and so forth. And so we kind of do this like manually at the moment. And Chants will be a command available on Twitch where you just do /command and then a word or whatever it'll be, a phrase, something, and everybody will get an opportunity, I guess, similar to like replying or whatever. I haven't actually seen it from a user's point of view yet, but you'll get the opportunity to, with minimal effort, which is sometimes, you know, a blessing when you're in chat or multiple chat windows or whatever, because we all know what humanoids are like. You get the opportunity with minimal effort to be able to just participate in this chat. Again, could also be helpful for people that are, in a second, third language kind of situation. We're not quite sure what's going on, but they want to be part of it. They're enjoying the moment. And so if you start like a Maximus chant, I don't know if it's with emotes or just text or whatever, the people would be able to just literally click the button and be one of us, as they say, one of us in the chat. And I think that's quite a cool thing to be able to just garner a bit more interaction. As an example, when you see it in even very popular streamers, sometimes, you know, there's 2,000 people sitting there and 3 people chatting. And you're like, so let's wake everyone up for a minute. Or I don't mean, again, not talking specifically about lurkers or anything like that, but just as a general principle, it's just kind of cool to be able to get that interaction. Maybe people aren't quite picking up on what's happening in a game, or you're playing some new content that people aren't familiar with. You can say, this is a really big boss fight. We need everybody to chant whatever, doobly-doo, whatever the magic phrase is, to give us the power to beat the boss. And then all of a sudden your chat is just full of a wall of text of everyone going, imagine the difference between 3 or 4 people chatting in 2,000 people watching to suddenly 500 people chanting like doobly-doo, doobly-doo, or, and that will give the streamer energy, by proxy, like the mod, some energy, and just brings, I think, everything back more into this interaction that we were talking about before. It being kind of the thing you're going for.
I'm very afraid right now.
All right.
Because in one of my, I have one intro for when I play World of Warships, and I have one intro for when I play random games. In the random games intro, there's a place where when I'm playing Assassin's Creed, I think it's Brotherhood, but one of the Assassin's Creed. It's one set in Rome, where you go about the city and you build up buildings and you finish things, all of these things. And there's one place where I finish one of the buildings, and then I start chanting something.
Okay.
the thing I start chanting is whorehouse, whorehouse.
Oh, well, there you go. You've got your chant. Instant chant.
Oh, and I can just, I know that my mods, if there's ever like people in chat from the start, I know my mods will start that, and I know exactly which one of my mods will do that, Battle Cat. Because and honestly, I don't want my chat to chant whorehouse with me. I don't want that. Like I'm gonna have to change my intro.
I mean, people could be like, what are we streaming today? Is it Warships or whorehouse?
Whorehouse. Oh god.
It's like a poll but more fun.
No, polls are for Stop.
Wait.
Stop.
Terms of service. Yeah. Oh no, I look forward to this. Also, before Chants arrive at either Tiger or myself's channel, I will be highly disappointed if during my work lurks next week I do not drop into Tiger's channel at lunch and see a big wall of whorehouse. I hope that happens. So all you listeners out there.
Oh no. You're
welcome.
Let's not make this a thing.
You're welcome. I mean, hey, look, it could have been different. We could have talked about hype trains, and then we could be talking about whore train.
Oh God.
But I would never bring that up and say that out loud on the podcast.
Let's not have a whore train. That's
all aboard Tiger's whore train.
Phrasing. I have a strained enough relationship with hype trains as it is, so yeah.
I mean, it just gets better and better the more I think about your face on the front of the train. I mean, anyway,
I do look very excited, don't I?
You do, yes.
Yeah. For those not familiar. No, I'm not. No, we're not.
20 minutes for this.
No, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. Anyway, we got to talk about a different thing. There are more changes to Twitch that are very important, and this is going to affect all streamers, not just US ones, not just European ones. I mean all streamers. All of your favorite streamers out there are gonna be hit by this, and we already have started being hit by it. What I'm talking about is local subscription pricing. If you're not familiar with that, the prices to subscriptions are being changed slowly but surely. And I'm reading now directly from the help.twitch.tv article about local subscription pricing. Twitch subscription prices are adjusted to better reflect the cost of living where a subscriber lives. We price subscriptions this way to enable creators and viewers to build communities where they are in the world. Local subscription pricing helps creators grow their community and revenue as more viewers become supporters over time. This pricing adjustment applies to the following subscription types: Tier 1, 2, and 3 subscription levels, community gift subs, single gift subs, and multi-month subscriptions. Subscribers will continue to enjoy the same subscription benefits with ad-free viewing when enabled by the creator, subscriber badges, custom emotes, and subscriber-only chat. Subscribers will continue to see a shareable private call-out in chat, as well as a recurring anniversary reminder to let chat know about their tenure in the channel. Custom and turbo subscriptions, as well as bit prices, are not affected by local subscription pricing. Who is affected by local subscription pricing? This change impacts all monetizing affiliates and partners on Twitch with subscribed viewers from countries where the price has changed. Click here for a full list of countries, but it's easier to list the ones that are not applied.
Yeah.
The ones that are not applied to is let me see if I can find this. Where did they hide this list? I saw it recently. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Like it's worldwide.
Yeah. The one's not affected is basically like America.
Yeah, because that's where the price is set anyway.
Yeah.
But let's see. We will update the communities with details about price changes in their countries. Local subscription prices are being adjusted slowly, and not all countries will see the price change at the same time. We are starting the rollout in Turkey and Mexico first, with launching adjusted prices in most countries in Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East, Africa, and Europe. How does local subscription pricing impact creators? This program lowers the price of subscription for viewers in a vast majority of countries. Notable exceptions include the United States, Canada, Switzerland, Israel, and Japan. For a full list of impacted countries, go here, and then yeah, I'll link to the article itself. When we have it up. But lower subscription prices means more viewers can support creators with paid subscriptions to help them reach their goals and build their communities. Creator subscription revenue is directly related to the price viewers pay and will change by a corresponding amount. This revenue adjustment applies to both paid and Prime subscriptions. Creator revenue shares will not change as a result of lowering the price of subscriptions around the world. Note the way they say that. And then we go to a section called Creator Revenue Adjustment Incentive. And I'm sorry, I'm fidgeting a bit because the underneath of my foot suddenly started super itching, and I just need to fidget a bit and get that.
That's the Twitch itch.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry. Creator Revenue Adjustment Incentive. Lowering the price of subscription means that more viewers around the world will be able to support their favorite creator and access subscription benefits. To prepare for this change, Twitch tested the effect lower priced subscriptions have on creator revenue, and the results show a positive change for creators long term as more viewers are able to subscribe. In the first few months after the price change, however, lower sub prices may lead to lower sub revenue for some creators if viewer adoption does not increase right away. We have designed a program to provide creators with a seamless transition to the new pricing model that shields them from any immediate changes to their revenue. The Creator Revenue Adjustment Incentive guarantees 100% of all eligible creators recurring, community gifting, single gift, multi-month, and Prime sub revenue for 3 calendar months, including the month of the price change after they may be impacted by the price changes. Very, very wordy article this, I'm sorry. The adjustment incentive is based on a creator's previous 3-month average, so the baseline of paid and Prime subscription revenue and hours broadcast. Eligible creators will qualify for revenue adjustment for up to 12 months when 20% or more of their sub revenue comes from viewers impacted by local subscription pricing. A summary of the revenue adjustment program. It starts with baselines. We look at how much revenue a creator has received from paid and Prime subs in the last 3 months, as well as how many hours the creator streamed live during that period, and calculate averages. These average baseline stats will be visible in the creator dashboard. Provided a creator streams at least 85% of their live baseline hours in a month and meets eligibility criteria listed in the chart below, we will pay them a revenue adjustment incentive, this is in quotation marks, to make up for any lost revenue from subs. When creators outperform their average, in an example, get more subs revenue, they will not receive the incentive payment, but may be eligible for future months should they need it. Twitch will cover 100% of baseline revenue, if needed, for the first 3 months, After that, we will slowly decrease incentive payments over the following 9 months, totaling a 12-month period of providing price adjustment help. Once local sub pricing begins, eligible creators will be able to use their creator dashboard to view their monthly baseline amounts, actual subscription revenue, and upcoming streaming requirements. So, monthly average sub revenue and live hours broadcasted based on the previous 3 months. That's your baseline, right? Then, revenue adjustment incentive duration over the next 12 months total. First 3 months, 100% of baseline. 4 to 6 months, 75% of baseline. 7 to 9 months, 50% of baseline. And 10 and 12 months, the 25% of baseline. Initial eligibility. 20% of the baseline revenue from countries outside of US, Canada, Japan, Israel, and Switzerland, and minor outlying territories where prices are not changing. That's what they're basing their eligibility of. 20% of baseline revenue from countries outside of this. Then there's the ongoing eligibility. Creators must stream 85% of their baseline hours to remain eligible. Meaning, if you've had 3 months where you've been streaming a lot because you've been able to, because of COVID, you're going to have to keep up 85% of those hours to be eligible for this.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Ultimately, I guess this is going to come down to sad but true, like a pool of people that kind of lose out and a pool of people that win in the beginning, and then the challenge will be on grinding out going forward is, does this translate over time? So their position is that this works out positive because you get a greater percentage of your viewership who chip in and support with a sub, those that can, than you would otherwise, and that significant increase in the percentage of your viewership that subs results, in the end, in a net gain. But it's going to be challenging, and I think especially those that are on borderline, or like you said, the people that have had a few months, or like I just thought a bit as you mentioned there, like my summer vacation where I stream every day.
Exactly.
If they calculated it in the middle of the 3 month or something, it might be like, oh, I don't know, does that work out as 85%? So do I have to put in a few extra shifts here and there?
And then we can go on and read here. Creator must live stream a minimum of 5 hours. Creators will be asked to stream no more than 200 hours per month if they normally stream this much. Hours broadcast must be live. Reruns do not count. Eligible creators will receive revenue adjustment in any month that they do not outperform their baseline revenue during the 12-month period. Creators will not receive revenue adjustment payments in any month that they outperform their baseline earnings. The 12-month adjustment period will be available to creators even if they don't meet the ongoing eligibility in a given month. To see if they are eligible for the revenue adjustment, creators can check their dashboard under channel analytics. So, like you mentioned, there is a good thing that they're doing here. They are making subscribing more available, and I'm all for that. I have said that this is a good thing, but meanwhile I'm also sitting here as a creator and thinking, okay, this is going to hit my revenue. This is going to absolutely hit my revenue. And that's a scary thought. That's a very, 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 very scary thought.
Yeah, I think what it's going to do to an extent is it's going to hopefully, at the end of the day, it should work out positively, but there'll be this transition period of 1 to 2 years where it's going to make us all a little bit nervous. Like even me doing it as a hobby or like you know, supplemental kind of thing. My plans are to do it full time, and this scares the bejesus out of me, because it's like, well, is this even going to work at all then? If this happens to coincide with when I try. But I guess the reality is that there's probably very few streamers that can actually do it just by the streaming itself. You know, this is why people look for the sponsorship opportunities or company endorsements, or, you know, whatever kind of you know, monetary equivalents or whatever. And I think what we'll see is there'll be not necessarily a shift, maybe a shift, but probably a shift of or an increase in that uptake. And of course, this depends incredibly heavily on those opportunities being out there and those opportunities being more accessible to a broader range of streamers that aren't like in the top, whatever, let's call it 1,000 streams. You know, random number. But like if you're not in that top category, or loosely or closely affiliated with them, some of those opportunities seem like they're a long, long way away.
Yeah. And I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that this will be a net positive impact. Because, yeah, like I like to be able to have subs, because a lot of the incentives of being a partner is tied around subs. Like the emotes and like all of the things that you can do together with sub parties and watch parties and so on, you know. That also ties into being a sub.
Yep.
So hopefully this will be a net positive for all of us. And but like you say, for anybody thinking about hopefully being able to do this full time, it's a weird time of jumping in on it. It is.
Yeah, I mean, the flip side of it is I look at it, well, you know, you've got to set yourself up and calculate it and work on the numbers or whatever, and then either take that calculated leap or a bit of a leap of faith or whatever. Hopefully not too much of that. For me, it's more a case of feeling more like a calling, like a this is, I've kind of found a thing now that I feel like this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do, from the perspective of entertaining and trying to, as you mentioned before, get people through difficult times, or just the general, you know, just life being life, that kind of thing. Yeah. So I want to do it because I feel like I can reach more people and do more good, also in the sense of like charitable work and raising awareness for things and whatnot. I feel like this is a possibility that I don't have elsewhere in my life, and this is one of the best that I can see. Whether I can make that work in terms of like sustaining what I have to do are the obvious things, make certain, not sacrifices, but like cut in certain areas or whatever, or just be more conscientious of certain things, because you know, having you know, like call it like a regular job and income and things like your health insurance is covered and stuff like that, all of those things will be gone. So all those things have to be factored in, considered, calculated, whatever. And I don't like all those things. They kind of like, you know, it's all bureaucracy and things that make me feel worse rather than better. But I think the bottom line is, as I said, I don't think it's not easy to, especially with streaming being relatively new, depending what market you're in or whatever. But it's not, you know, like I think about it, this even where I am, like in Germany, very modern company, very full of technology, lots of people who are into this, you know, who understand and are part of this, lots of German partners and all that kind of thing. But still, it's still very niche in terms of like the overall population and general understanding. Yeah, like 99% of people that I would talk to probably in my like working life would be like, what's streaming? What's that? You know, what's a Twitch? That kind of thing. So it's still got a long way to go in terms of like outside of that streaming bubble, becoming like a mainstream. if that makes sense. So,
yeah.
And that has a knock-on effect to all the other aspects, not least of all the financial parts of it. Hopefully, I think the positive side, the way we can look at it is, I really think and believe, and you got to an extent, hope that this will be an opportunity for all the people, and there's hundreds and thousands of them everywhere, not just for us, but generally, that would love to support a little, and typically it'll be the person that like throws in some bits somewhere or whatever because they had a good week, that kind of thing, and now they might be able to support you on a more kind of regular, sustainable basis that helps them to calculate and plan better, and helps us to understand where we're at too. Now, and then it's going to be an interesting transition to see the reality of because you still get I just went through one of those where you have like a dip month or something. They're like different for different channels and different people, different content and whatnot. But there's the classic, the kind of Christmas where everyone's like gung-ho and gifting out and all the spirits are high and all the rest of it.
Yep.
And then you get that dip suddenly in like Jan, Feb or something. It's like, holy geez, where did the subs go? And hopefully, maybe that smooths itself out as well, because that's pretty terrifying sometimes when that happens. Even while we were talking there, I was just looking at the numbers because I was very curious. It was like, hey, congratulations, here's your Twitch payout. And I was like, okay, only one donut this month then. Okay. And it was it kind of, and then I just looked at the number and it's like, oh, right. Okay. So that's that then. So I think it's going to, hopefully it'll work well. Again, I think part of it is because it isn't yet a mainstream thing where you can say full-time streamer and people are like, oh, that's cool. Like just the same way you would like, oh, I'm a plumber, or I'm, I work in an office, or I'm a chemist or something like that. We're not yet really, or I don't think we're at, and this is talking from being in Germany, very modern company, we're not at the point where you can go full-time streamer. And that's like 3 out of the 20 people, at the shop checkout queue or something like that. So we're not, I don't consider it mainstream yet. I haven't done any statistical analysis on that, so some people probably go, well, actually, if we just read this out anyway. But that's certainly how it feels, that most people don't really recognize it yet. And maybe this will be something that helps, because it will be one of those, well, it's a third of the cost of a Starbucks of a month, and look what you get. You get great entertainment. You get to hang out and be part of a community. Makes you feel better, and you can enjoy some of your experience and some of your free time. And at the same time, you get to support the people that are, making you laugh and cry and, in a good way, and bringing you all of these hours of entertainment. So certainly more direct than paying like a €100 TV subscription or something.
Yeah.
And then hoping that something good on the telly. It's like, oh, that's not the program I wanted to watch. Damn it. Give me my €100 back. So, well, I think we'll get there. And I think it's interesting. And I really, really hope that it works the way, and it isn't just another one of those, well, all the rich guys just decided to keep more of the money. Because at the end of the day, there's a slight aspect of it for Amazon, Twitch, and all the rest of it, because if they're still keeping their half of the money or whatever,
they are.
So if people just don't dip in, then there's a part of it that's like, well, they may have just cut their own income streams. Now they can obviously survive that forever, but that's not what they're in the business of making more.
We'll just have to see. We'll just have to see. Like there's no way of telling per now, but my encouragement to people out there who have their favorite streamers, if you notice that your pricing is changing, like I'm not going to tell you to support them a tiny bit extra with gifts or such, no, but just keep that in mind, how it affects your favorite streamers, and especially those who are actually doing this full time. Hobby or part-time are also, well, part-time or full-time is where I want you to keep your focus on, and talk to them about it, not necessarily support them in the way of throwing money at them. they'll probably be happy about it. Don't get me wrong, but talk to them about it. See where they're at. Like, if they want to talk about it, that is. Because
yeah, spreading
awareness about this and being aware of how this might affect people is also something that is just as important. Because there might be changes happening, and Joe Schmo sitting at home might not know about this. So he might not know that, the price of a subscription has dropped. Oh, I can finally do it. Because there's a lot of people that have said, when I get more money, I'll subscribe. Like, and I'm like, okay, just do what you want when you want to, or when you can. Just make sure that you are financially secured when you do it. But in this, keep the awareness going on it until you get told, I don't want to talk about it, you know. So help out your favorite streamer by actually spreading awareness on this too. It's just as important. Oh, that's one of those topics. It's always hard to talk about money on stream or money regarding to streams or such, revenue. It's always so hard to talk about because it's a weird subject.
It's hard because you care about it, because it's important, but because also it's not, you know, and that's another thing with it not being mainstream. It's not something in most sort of professional job walks of life. It's not like you having dinner with your mate who's a plumber and you're like, oh, but how many of those $50 toilets did you sell last week? You know what I mean? You don't go into that.
Yeah.
Unless you're particularly sort of intimate friend relationship type thing, you don't typically go into those kind of conversations. But for something like this, you're literally right in front of the screen, in front of everyone, and then dependent on, if you will, that as a source of income. But the challenging part comes in large part because we do care and we love this community to the point where we would do this for free if we could do it.
Yeah,
you know, as a form of art and entertainment, and you know, if that put bread on the table, and you know, and coffee in the coffee grinder or whatever, I certainly would. I'm pretty sure you would. Most people we know would. We're not in this to be like, hey man, I need, you know, I think we talked about this before. Like, can I have that second Ferrari or something? That's irrelevant. We're here because what would you do? You know, once you've gone to the shop in your Ferrari and come back again, we would sit there and fire up the stream and try and interact and have fun and engage with these people, because this becomes like an extension of your, you know, community stroke family, so stream fam or whatever. So it becomes awkward because in the same ways you don't want to sit there and go, you know, to an aunt or an uncle or something, hey, how about a $5? You know, so, you know, this is cool, we're having dinner and here's another cup of coffee, but, you know, that coffee, you know, so we try and make light of it, but that's why it's emotional, because we're putting everything we can into it, because we want people to be happy and to be entertained, and it just also happens to be something that needs to, you know, that we need to feed ourselves and get equipment and do all this other research and just do these things. So doesn't happen for free, unfortunately. We're not yet in the Star Trek utopia, but maybe one day.
One day I'll win the Euro jackpot. I can do this for free, and I can sponsor other streamers. It would be good. It would be good. Anyway, let's move on to a different utopia. Because we've been recording for 1.5 hours now ish.
Yep.
And so we need to move this along a bit. We have a couple of things on role-playing to talk about. And before we jump into the two main subjects, I want to talk about a magic item I was introduced to recently, the one I linked to in the Portcast DMs. There's this guy who's he created a magic item for the moments where you kind of need to tell story, and there's no feasible way of getting the information to the player without it being utter nonsense. Like, how did they obtain this? and what was it he called it? It was the Encyclopedia of I was totally paying attention.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something like that. Where the idea is, if you make a successful roll on this, you get the information. Like, it basically tells you anything you want. We're talking, how do you go from here to the shadow mouth entrance into the different realm or whatever. But if you fail that, and this is why it made me love this item. If you fail that roll, it'll start to tell you about it. And then my ADD brain kind of went, oh my god, this is how my brain works. It'll start to tell you about it, but then you'll remember some random NPC or some interaction you've had in regards to this, and that'll kind of take you off track towards a different subject, and that'll make you remember somebody else that is related to this guard, and suddenly you're back there going, yeah, I don't know anything about this. Shit. And the idea of being presented with the information that way as a player, like I was in the player kind of mind space, I was like, this is genius. This is absolutely genius. Because how many times have you been a player in something, done a knowledge check or whatever? You're like bardic knowledge, for instance. That's one of those. Like, how does bardic knowledge work? If you roll a natural 20 on bardic knowledge, suddenly you're remembering a song or a story or something about this great hero that did this thing. Yeah, okay. But how do we know that the knowledge is accurate? Huh? It's from a bard in a million-year-old story, after all. I'm not knocking on bards, by the way. They are absolutely amazing. I love them. But the idea of getting information just suddenly popping out in your head, yeah, it happens to humans, but it's not necessarily the thing that is the easiest to do. So this encyclopedia here, where you kind of you're flipping through, flip, and then shit, what was I doing? You know, it's so human.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly, like the loose thread or the shiny or whatever. Like, oh, I mean, I guess the one modern way you could liken it to is like being on Wikipedia.
Oh yes, oh yes.
I need to look up this one thing. Oh, they were also in this band. Oh, and they released an album in that year. Oh, and what else happened in that year? And then you're like, and then you're gone, and you're like, it's 3 a.m. and you're like.
You're reading
what
about...
the hell was I trying to look up in the first place? You don't even know. You don't care anymore. The world has ended.
Yeah. The same as with a YouTube hole. Like, Wikipedia and YouTube have the same holes. Like, you click on a link, it gives you a topic, suddenly you're in a different topic, 7 hours later, you're looking at videos on why did the... Catholic Church renounce the use of moose as like, you know, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Speaking of moose, by the way, can I just quickly say, there's a law in Alaska that you're not allowed to drop a live moose from an airplane. This started because PETA heard about a moose dropping festival. We're talking about dung here, not actual moose being flung out of an airplane. But they thought live moose were being flung out of airplanes.
Right.
Yes. So they went to court, and
oh my God.
And then a new law had to
made that illegal. Yeah. Okay.
Why? Like, oh, so. So the people of Alaska, they now have a law that if you end up making a new moose law, I think they can legally kill you. No, that's a joke, but still, it's like the idea itself is ridiculous. Anyway,
yeah,
that's a bit of interactive storytelling for you. And back to the encyclopedia.
Yeah. So meanwhile, Tiger's not remembered how to get to the Shadowfell.
Yeah.
But he does know that moose cannot be dropped from dwarven crafted air blimps. So there you go. Case in point. Case closed.
Cannot be dropped from a tier 9 heavy U.S. cruiser. What?
Solved.
No, but it's like it's a perfect tool for interactive storytelling.
Yeah, I think it's a very, very good idea as well. I like that. I think though my players potentially, as my brain has gotten sort of weaker and weaker with age, there's an argument that they might counterplay me and say, we're going to have can we have an encyclopedia of the DM created an item that they thought would be exciting and attractive and a genius bit of fun, and then forgot all about what it was, how it works, didn't write the card down, and no longer knows. Because I think we need that. And I'm glad I'm putting this in podcast, because otherwise I would forget that I mentioned it. And then anyway, so I fully expect to get called up on this at some point soon, TM. So yeah, so there's that. Also on that note, sorry Ray, I still don't remember what that knife was supposed to do.
Yeah, you mentioned that once.
Yeah.
No, interactive storytelling is one of my favorite things about role playing.
Yep.
And you touched on it while we were doing the editorial meeting.
Yep.
Was the importance of this being not just a story being told from the DM, like the players are actively in on it.
Yep.
They're creating the moments, they are playing off each other, they are just as much moving the story along as the DM is.
Yep.
What's your favorite kind of moment where an action a player has taken because they've been super excited has moved the story in a completely different way than what you first had sort of planned, but then you went, you know, this is genius, let's roll with it.
Yeah. So there's been different like scales of things like that. There was one of the, like a more classical one, I think, was where in a quite a few arcs ago, we had it was kind of like all homebrewed and adjusted from the kind of what's it called, the like Tyranny of Dragons kind of thing, where they were dealing with cultists wanting to call the dragons and Tiamat eventually and all that kind of thing. And some of the homebrewing was around powerful and prominent dragons of the region, who obviously had a vested interest in this. And then we had I did some research around older D&D mythology and whatever, and characters from the history and the lore around like Samaster and the Church of Tiamat. So this kind of split in dragon lore about those who believed in Dracoliches being the ultimate form and all that kind of stuff, and then those who were more, no, this is all about Tiamat, and Tiamat is the ultimate creation or whatever, and so on and so forth. So some of the actual more interactive stuff directly in the campaign revolved around the masks, and the dragon mask being individually powerful and lending powers to whoever was the wearer of the mask, and allowing you to interact with dragons of that color or that ilk or their allies, that kind of thing. And there was a part of a story arc that they ended up going, because it was a bit of like, are we bargaining and working with these people, and double crossing, or are they doing that to us, and all that kind of thing, or are we just straight up like heroes versus villains kind of stuff. And the way it develops, because these players are like incredibly inventive, and most of them are like DMs, or all of them I think are DMs in their own right, and it went in the direction of a big showdown with this green dragon who had been disguised as a human or humanoid, and interacting with them and that kind of thing. And then having this showdown, and then the plot twist kind of thing was they've got this mask, and they knew a number of powerful like archmages and various others like heroes and institutions and whatnot that could help them kind of get rid of the mask or make sure they didn't fall into the wrong hands, that kind of thing. And instead of that, the bard, very charismatic, but a little bit like no risk, no fun in some regard, just was like, oh, this is my mask now. And just put the mask on.
Yeah.
It kind of went in and then so I had to I had this rough idea. I didn't really see it happening, so it wasn't all planned out, but it was actually just well, charisma rolls. Okay, he's a bard, so he's got good scores in that. But it turned into a battle of wits between the player and the mask. Because the mask being and so the mask wanting an influence of bringing multiple masks together, because if they were bringing 3 of the 5 masks together, then Tiamat could be summoned and could be unlocked out of her prison in the 9 hells, and so it went in this but then it was this bard being very powerful. I can't remember what level they were, 15 or something, but pretty, this was late game stuff. So it was kind of but this bard was able to maintain control most of the time. He was being more subtly influenced, but ostensibly he was controlling and using this, and it started to augment his powers, so he was able to go and influence an entire village and say, well, it'd be really good if we could use this village as our village from now on, and so all the villagers would start doing whatever so that was a good, probably the best example of this shouldn't have gone this way, but let's go with it now. Linking it to the whole creating the story together, so it just became really, really fun. And we ended up wrapping or switching and changing arcs and campaigns, because you get to a point where the players become super powerful, and it's kind of okay, I can either throw a world-ending event at you every week, which you'll probably defeat, or we can go back to some sort of mid and lower level stuff. So we opted for the latter, because it was just more fun to do that. And a more subtle one in recent sort of similar circumstance was they're in an island sort of setting off the Sword Coast, quite a ways off, that I've just invented, and there's a lot of piracy. It's kind of a Pirates of the Caribbean type thing with all the other D&D kind of tropes and lore there as well. And the party went up for a parlay, a big fight against what do you call it? A powerful, not the most powerful, but a pretty up there powerful group of pirates. And it was a parlay, and it was all going to be oh, we're just negotiating some points here together, and nothing too serious is going to happen. And then one of the characters is a bugbear who she just sort of ran out. Her character's a very brawly, wants to have a fight all the time. She kind of ran out of patience, kind of grumpy bored, and she was okay, and she just used their safe word that they'd agreed before the fight, and she was Captain, can I use the safe word now? And the captain's shrug. So, and they just started a big fight with these quite powerful pirates in a special floating island that is a pirate haven. This is where all the pirates, and you can only get there if you're a pirate or you have contacts, and so you're surrounded by all these dangerous people, and they just went in this all-out fight, and they didn't kill the pirate they were interacting with, but they killed her personal bodyguard, and these were pretty tough NPCs at the time. And and 2 of the others had to flee, including this pirate captain. And it's you're literally in effectively the citadel of pirates or whatever, right? And you decided to just go for it and have this fight and murder one of them outright. And it fit so well to the characters and all that, but it was I didn't see this going this way. So now the story arc includes this whole, they're looking over their shoulders, and one of the player characters actually was sort of kidnapped briefly, but by some sort of mercenary thugs that had been hired by the pirates to get revenge, and the character being quite strong and progressed quite far so far managed to escape that. But it was, so now the world has this kind of looming additional danger in the background that I didn't really create. I created the backdrop, but they created the specifics around this powerful pirate group that hates the player party. And we've had 2 or 3 characters come and go in the meantime as well. So the others are coming in. They're is there anything else I should know about the group? Nah.
That's fine.
We're being hunted by really deadly pirates. But apart from that, no, it's fine. So, yeah. I love it. But it's, the good thing there is the challenging but also rewarding thing for all of us is that you then have to make adjustments on the story and even the whole arc to an extent. So that makes it fun. But I really enjoy it because it means that we're all creating the story together rather than being, in a way, the pressure. More the pressure in the sense of like, is this any good? Is this fun? Is this entertaining? Of having to just create this stuff all on my own, as it were. It can be fun to do that, but that's more fun if you've got a less experienced group where you're like, okay, they need to be kind of guided through it a little bit. So, but yes, it's I would encourage people, players or DMs, maybe reach out to your DM if you're a player and you're not sure, and you're in a relatively new group or something, and just talk about the possibilities and say, I got these couple of ideas. I don't want to bring them in if they're going to be disruptive, or you got to be careful with it, because you don't, maybe the DM also can have these stresses and strains and say, well, I've kind of got this all mapped out, and but just throw ideas out there, and then it's up to the DM if they use them at all, or when timing wise they might become relevant. But I think that really helps a lot. And it forms a kind of a closer, deeper bond with everyone as well, because you all have a more vested interest in it being successful, not necessarily winning or losing sense, but in a sense of being fun and entertaining if you're all creating it together.
I had I wouldn't say a similar moment, but I've had one of those moments where it changes the entire dynamic, and I just have to go a completely different route. One of the moments, of course, is like I know we talked about this before, when you make a completely unimportant NPC mention something, and the players latch on. Like they are dug in. They're like an Alabama tick. They're like, okay, what's the backstory of this character? And then you have to create something off that. That's a lovely one. By all means, it's fun because suddenly there's something to play off. However, there are also issues where suddenly you you present an idea, or rather, not just an idea, but an entire boss fight to said party group, and they managed to defeat the entire boss in 2 rounds. Instead of it being the fight of the evening. So said demigod that was going to be a reoccurring piece throughout the entire arc is now dead. What do you do then? Well, for me, I suddenly went, crap, my bad guy's dead. What do I do? What do I do? So I left them kind of just pondering for themselves, like is he really dead? Is this the only one? Like, was that the main guy? And then suddenly they themselves started exploring this entire cult thing or whatever it was, where they kind of figure out, okay, is this an actual cult? Are these the people? Are you tied to them? And then they went on this huge adventure looking for these things themselves. And I was like, okay, I'll play along. And then it was like, okay, we want to go to this city and interrogate this guy because he had a shirt that looked kind of like the symbol of this god. So yeah, we want to interrogate him. Like, all right. So in that's going to be about a 2 weeks travel anyway. So plenty of encounters you can throw at him along the road. And then they get to the city and they found out he's murdered. Aha! And so it's all of these things where
we must be on the right track now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. His cousin was called Bob as well. 2 Bobs in one cult. This can't be a coincidence.
So it's like it turned into a whole thing because I just figured, okay, you know what? No, I'm just gonna kill off that NPC and have them lose the trail. No, they didn't lose the trail. This just further enticed them to go. I was like, oh, god damn it. Come on. Take a hint, people.
Meanwhile, you're looking at a dozen other really nice miniatures you want to use for the next. I'm never going to use my dragons.
But yeah,
that's cool.
It kind of brings me over to our next part of this, where you want to talk a bit about heroes and villains, and I guess that bad guy, that demigod that they suddenly slayed in 2 rounds instead of a full evening's fight. He's probably one of my favorites, and also one of my most hated characters I've ever created. Like, there's huge backstory. He was going to be the main bad guy for an entire story arc, for fuck's sake. And then suddenly, no.
You'll never defeat this guy.
Splat.
Oh my god, he's got matchstick legs. He's weak at the calves. Go for the calves. Damn it.
I even remember why it happened. It's because like we had this half-orc barbarian, like first-time player kind of guy. And he created the character, and he was just looking to fight. And yeah, introduced him into the group, and he was one of the quiet guys, not really taking any sort of charge. And normally in fights he'd been really unlucky with initiative and so on. So he's usually very late out into the initiative. This time around he rolled a nat 20 on his initiative. And had recently had, I can't remember what it was, but he had some more temporary bonuses to his initiative, making him act even before the demigod. It's a fucking demigod. Like, how do you? Yeah. Anyway,
caught the demigod on an off day.
Yeah. So he outperformed the demigod on the initiative. Ran up and got the first attack was a double crit. And then on the next round with the full attack, he had 3 attacks, and that was all 3 crits. So yeah.
Why demigod?
Yeah, so my wonderful demigod guy just suddenly tomato paste. That's how it happened, and that's how I lost one of my favorite bad guys ever, and which is why I'll never again create a full backstory on a bad guy until I know he's going to be there a bit longer.
Yeah.
How about you?
Just sort of crying into your like DM soup afterwards, like, oh. Well, I wanted to do this for 2 reasons. I'm also like looking at the clock. Sorry, was my favorite. Funnily enough, talking about that dragon event. That was one of my very favorites in terms of like a villain, because what they were engaged with. This was I think one of the first times I'd really pushed myself to create a deeper villain, a deeper character. I'm not that great, like instinctively at playing villains. I don't mean this to be like a soppy like pat on my own shoulder thing. I've learned to bring out the evil. It didn't come like naturally to me at first. Like, not talking about like, you know, smash a guy in the face or something like that. That's the easy stuff. But like to actually think and have them act and portray this character as like, this is really ridiculously mean and nasty and convoluted and tricking people and stuff like that. So this green dragon character I created was called Toxiados, which is sort of a Latin and a bit of a twist of things, but it kind of meant like what was it? It was like the bringer of poison or something along those lines anyway. And I really enjoyed playing this character because a lot of the time the interactions were with her in like a humanoid form. So that the threat was like, at first they were like not sure. They're like, no, this woman's a bit weird kind of thing, you know? And there was a bit flirtation in there and stuff like that, you know, all kind of like within the context of the group and the campaign. But it was like there's something, you know, there's something off. And even when you've got like experienced like players who are DMs and all that kind of thing, so they're like, they know, but then when you get that realization that they don't exactly know, you feel like, okay, this is working. So it was very much like a lot of that in the situation, and I just liked the opportunity to have some a villain that was brawn for sure, but brains, and but not just brains, but also that real nasty streak.
Yeah,
that kind of like this woman will stop at nothing. It's a dragon. She will murder anyone and anything that she perceives to be not so much a threat because she's arrogant and doesn't think that there's much of a threat, but more from point of view of like, you're just an inconvenience, a nuisance, or you're in the way of me achieving the goal that I want to achieve, that kind of thing. So that was really fun to play that character that was so multifaceted, that the character also had like a very narcissistic but very fascinated with understanding the humanoids, taking on human form a lot of the time, partly just for the continuing that experience, you know, and also because she thought that she was fooling everybody, and most people she was fooling. So I guess the some of the core of it was being able to be that that kind of deep evil, kind of not so much crazy, but just really really obsessed. Because her goal was to get the mask, and to get multiple of these masks, and either to summon Tiamat or even demand things. And, you know, like as often the dragon lore kind of goes, like they're all like supporting the one or the other god or whatever, until there's a point where they see an opportunity of like, whoa, well, this could be me, because I could live forever, and forever is a long time with the boss. How about I'm the boss, kind of thing. So it just gave me the opportunity to play all those different aspects off against each other, with a party of players who were exceedingly capable of doing all those, you know, ingenious things, and using their creativity to diffuse situations or win combats and things that they shouldn't win, and all that kind of thing. So it was that was my favorite kind of villain. And before I forget, part of the reason bringing it up, not only to talk and share and enjoy these stories together, was also I wanted to appeal to our listenership, was I think the right word, to let us know, give us some of your experiences. What was a good and memorable hero or villain that you either played or you had portrayed by your DM or another player in your group? Could be a current thing, could be like something from forever ago, but what's like either a character that really kind of got the emotions going, either excitement, or you felt they were, oh, these are so evil, I hate this character, that kind of thing, whatever it was, or conversely a hero where you were really sold on like everything that the hero was doing, and that they really played their really were committed to their path or whatever. Then drop us a line in our Discord channels, in our Exit to Port channels, and let us know what you think, or sorry, just what your experience was. I think it'd be really fun to hear some of those stories and share them with each other and with the community. If you
or comment on YouTube if you watch this on the YouTube.
Yes, there you go. All the places.
All the places. I kind of want to talk a bit about a villain that somebody described to me, not necessarily as a villain, but more as a plot twist that I felt was wonderful. Big bad evil guy has murdered several millions, and your party has been on his tails for I don't know how many years, and like you've really been chasing this guy. And one day you find his tower, and you fight your way up through mimics and inanimate objects, or animated objects, or whatever you want to call them, all the way to the top. And when you get to the top, all you see there is a big two-person bed where there's two people in it. One person is lying on top of the covers next to the other, and all you can hear is quiet crying.
Mm-hmm.
The object you've been seeking to gain back from this evil guy is just casually thrown on the floor. And as you approach, he just looks at you and says, "Take it. I don't want it anymore." And in this is this big bad evil guy clutching the hands of his now deceased wife. Like how does the party react then?
Mm-hmm.
Because suddenly you've gone from having this big bad evil guy that has done all of these things. Like, there's this big touch of humanity in him, and I just love the idea of that as part of a portrayed villain. Like, give them something, because he has been chasing this item to keep her alive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not working. He no longer has any motivation to be evil. How do you go about that? Huh? How do you go about that? Anyway, hey, on that sad note, let's give people something to smile about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Fresh tissues.
As we've kind of always said, is that something we are always keeping is the segment we have chosen to call Something to Smile About. And I have, well, I initially had two things, but I forgot about one of them. Hello, ADD brain. Maybe I'll remember it. Anyway. Mine has simply been that a couple of weeks ago I had a visit from some family, and on one of these days I got to hang out and cook with my niece. And we didn't cook anything fancy, but it was simply us two hanging out, talking about anything from cooking to well, just things we enjoyed, and it was one of the things that made me smile the most is we were making a salad and cutting up this iceberg salad, and she was asking me, like, "Oh, can I do it that way?" And you're the one being the boss here. Like, you're the one deciding. This is a meal you guys normally make. Like, we were making nachos. This is a meal you guys normally make. I'm following your tutorials here. And she says, "Okay, okay, then I'm gonna chop up the salad." And she kind of chopped up this iceberg salad where the heart of the salad, like the heart of the salad head, was left. Well, it's good salad by all means, but she left the heart there, and she picked it up. And she looked at me and she went, "Uncle?" I was like, "Yeah. Can I eat this like an apple?" I was like, "Why not?" And she just started chomping on the heart of the salad. Crunch, crunch, crunch. And she looked so happy. She was so happy. And she was giggling and smiling. And then we went out on the porch, and she's crunching on this salad. And my brother, her dad, looked up and went, What are you eating?" "Ah, it's a salad." I said, "Don't worry, most of it's in the salad bowl."
Most of it.
And she was just crunching on this. "This is really good." Oh, crunch, crunch, crunch.
Awesome.
So yeah, that is something I wanted to mention that yeah, it really made me smile.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I've got it's actually just a streaming related one, but a more community related one, I suppose, in a way. And it's just some specifically one instance of it, but just in a broader sense. And it's about streamers that have had to take a break, whether they've just chosen to or need to, whether it's like, you know, mental health, physical health, mixture of both, just having a break for family, whatever it is. And I've just seen a few different instances where this has happened, and how people have been reaching out and just, you know, being kind and giving them confidence, you know, that that they're not going to be forgotten and all that kind of thing, because that really plays on your mind when you have to take some time off. And in particular, just what really made me smile a lot was well, hang on, I have to think about how I phrase this and get the timing right, the sequence. So Pop's Place recently had to have knee replacement surgery, which obviously came with a long absence from streaming, and that then in turn, because he is like a retiree, has to rely on that as an income source and everything. And you know, so you take those hits, but obviously you miss everybody, you miss the opportunity to engage with the community and all of that goes with it. And then just seeing his successful return, albeit he's realized it was a little bit too soon and he needs to ease off again. But either way, just to be able to see all the love and appreciation and go and hang out and see everybody just come in, welcome him back, wish him well, all that kind of thing. And yeah, and I've just seen that in a few different areas. There's another one, this is kind of like 2 or 3 just bundled together, but just this really good vibes and good positivity seen across all these different communities, where people just you could sort of say, well, that's what you'd expect, but you know, you can expect anything. Sometimes people are miffed or upset or whatever because they're like, well, oh, but you're not there, and what am I going to do, and all these kind of things creep in, you know. And just seeing this overwhelming kind of appreciation and understanding when people need to take a break for whatever the reason might be, and then seeing that come to full fruition when people are really embraced and welcomed back in, just gave me that real warm, gave me that something to feeling, and that's something to smile about. It was really nice. I wish Pop's really well, obviously specifically in this case, but anybody that, you know, needs a break out there or has one forced upon them, hang in there, get through it. Know that we're all thinking and supporting, and we look forward to the opportunity to welcome you back.
Indeed. Oh, I just remember the other one.
Oh,
it's very short. We've mentioned Meg's Mashables before. Quick introduction to those who don't know. Meg is a wonderful Twitch streamer, an artist. She creates all of these different cool drawings, and one of the main thing is a mashable, where she takes 2 or more subjects and mashes them together. She recently started a Kickstarter that was to get to create a plushie out of one of her own creations, the Cork, which is a corgi and a shark. And it's a successful campaign. So the corgi shark, the Cork, will be a plushie. And I'm so happy about that. It's so cool. And it's so cool to see creators reach their goals like that. And yeah. Yeah, so the Cork coming soon. It's I may or may not have said, you know what, let's throw in some money on this campaign and get ourselves a couple of Corks. Yeah.
Surprise, you supporting a good wholesome streamer who brings fun and entertainment and puts smiles on faces.
Stop it, you're making me blush.
Unbelievable. Yeah, sorry Northern Norway, it's got a little bit red and rosy up there right now, but it's daylight anyway, so surprise, you can't tell.
But with that being said and done, thank you, Grumbles, for joining in on yet another podcast. A successful one, and we're keeping to our normal limit, it seems.
How we managed it today, I don't know.
I have no idea. To anybody watching or listening, please do give us comments, give us things to comment on, questions to answer, your favorite heroes or villains in a D&D campaign or role-playing campaign. I'm gonna throw in even digital. Like if you've ever met one of the digital ones that just made you go, oh, I really want to beat this guy or whatever, you know, throw them in there. And without further ado, thank you so much for joining us in our Exit podcast, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.